Coming up to your left on this path of pixelated pleasures, we predict Soggy Pants as Fraggy the Chicken Heart gets reacquainted with an old friend. It's a piratey yo-ho-ho as we plunder the interwebs for our free weekly pick of online booty. And we trace the backstory of our alien invaders in our inside look at Resistance 3. It's our weekly bug-eyed look at the world of interactive entertainment. This is Game. A very warm welcome and thanks for joining me for another episode of Asia's favorite weekly gaming show. You're with me, Kelly, your guide to the dizzying world of digital delights. A truckload of games to get through on this episode and looking at my ticker tape, a little something for everyone as it seems. But first, it's time to dim the lights as we join our resident game guru, who, for the last week, has been busy keeping company with some, spooky cookies. Let's see what he thought of his time with Alma, the Princess of the Pain in Fear 3.
Hey, what's up my fellow gaming aficionados? Fraggy here, feeling slightly cold because in today's Game and Review, we're going to be checking out the latest survival horror game to hit the shelves, Fear 3.
We were brothers, prototype commandos in the emerging field of psychic warfare. I was the favorite. Brother.
Now, over the course of 3 games, the story's gotten more than a little confusing, so try to pay attention. Picking up 9 months after the events of the last game, Fear 3 continues the story of the slightly simian-looking Point Man, who's finally been captured by the forces of Armachan. But as if that wasn't bad enough, Point Man's psychic cannibal of a brother, who he just happened to kill in the first game, is also back because of a slight problem only the two of you can fix. You see, remember all that psychic rape that happened at the end of part 2? Well, that's left scary Alma all pregnant. And so it falls on both brothers to work together to stop Alma's new demon spawn from being born. Freaky stuff, but with a new developer at the helm this time around, what changes can gamers expect from this latest installment? And with so many shooters crowding the scene, how does Fear 3 set itself apart? Well, let's find out. Now, the thing that surprised me the most playing through this game was how much I enjoyed the combat. Because let's be honest, for a game with a reputation as a corridor shooter, I really wasn't expecting the combat in this one to be so good. The gameplay itself is a mishmash of several different games. Point Man is a beast, able to slide into firefights with a swift kick, use cover to his advantage, and activate slow-mo for those Matrix-style kills. But things really get interesting during co-op, when a second player joins to control the brother, Fettel, who comes with his own set of super psychic powers, the best of which is the ability to possess an enemy from a distance. And because each of you have unique skills, playing through the campaign with a friend is so much fun, as you both work out your strategies to make it through the game's 10-hour-long campaign. Taking the idea of cooperation even further is the game's multiplayer mode, which is also another huge strength of Fear 3. Far from your standard deathmatch options, you're given 4 very unique modes. Now, fans of Call of Duty's zombie multiplayer will find the Contractions mode a blast, with 4 players working together to collect ammo and fend off wave after wave of enemies. But the game type which I found most refreshing was one that I can only assume is called Forking Run. Now, as the game title suggests, this one is all about 4 players all moving as fast as they can away from an oncoming wall of death which threatens to consume everything. Get hit by the wall and it's game over for everyone. This, as you can imagine, makes for some crazy moments of extreme panic and I dare say is almost worth the price of admission on its own. Now, the main flaw behind all of Fear 3's awesomeness is, well, a general lack of any real feeling of fear when you're playing through it. You see, a game like Resident Evil or Silent Hill works as a survival horror, cause in both those games you're pretty much stuck in a strange place, you turn with the speed of a tank, and you've got hardly any means to defend yourself. So with that in mind, even though Fear 3 does feature its share of creepy environments, let's face it, you've got a scoped rifle, a fully loaded shotgun, and you can slow down time whenever you want. Things get even less frightening during co-op, when your brother, player 2, starts jumping around like he's in a game of Counter-Strike. Now don't get me wrong though, cause it's still tons of fun, it's just not scary. And if you're thinking of picking up Fear 3 because you like the constant tension of the first two games, well, you may be disappointed. You know, it's kind of hard to judge this one without comparing it to the originals, but because of how different this one feels, Fear 3 is almost like a totally separate entity in the franchise. While the previous two games felt like horror games, which just used the first-person view to get the frights across, this one feels more like a really good modern shooter with a scary story. With gameplay faster than ever now, the combat in this one should instantly click, especially if you come from games like Battlefield and Modern Warfare. And with a co-op mode which feels like a totally new experience, as well as more cool multiplayer options, if you don't mind a slight watering down of the shocks, Fear 3 is definitely one to pick up.
Thanks for that, Frags. And if that random hallucination triggered a little something, Alma and the boys of Fear 3 are available for a personal haunted house call if you've got a PC, PS3 or Xbox 360. Time now for us to take a breather, but don't go anywhere because when we get back, we've got a nerdgasmic encounter starring our favorite robots of unusual size. And we head to the online orchid for this week's pick of the best digital delights. Hey there, great to have you back on Game. Thanks for joining us. Now, everyone nice and comfy? Well, too bad. Time to get up and go grab your notepad, because in our next section, it's free games for everyone. Now, Scoot, move your muffins and go grab a pen. It's our weekly selection of the best free-to-play titles around. This is Online.
And to kick things off, we begin with a tale of a lovable rolling tin can in Little Wheel. A whimsical story all about discovery. You play a small robot who is zapped back to life after being victim to a power cut which happened more than 10,000 years ago. And now that you're alive and all, guess whose job it is to fix the generator and restore life back to your once bustling metropolis. With simple controls which won't get in the way, prepare your noggin for a workout with a host of clever puzzles all packaged with some lovely visuals to the tune of smooth jazz. So if you're feeling the need to plug out of the grid, applications to help Little Wheel are available at the address below. Moving on, one for all the would-be Dr. Frankensteins as we play Mad Scientist in Days of Monsters. A devious little flash game in which you plan the downfall of the world by unleashing monsters on the unsuspecting people, one evil hairy beast at a time. Safe in your headquarters deep below the Pacific, it's plan, create, and overtake on the menu as you buy new parts to equip your newly minted monsters of doom. With more cash bankrolled the more you destroy, live out your inner evil villain at the address below. And finally, one for all the space heads among us as we take a look at a strangely mesmerizing game all about intergalactic conquest. In Solar Max, you play Galactic Commander and your job is to amass your own Starfleet as you go around the galaxy colonizing planets and generally making a right nuisance of yourself. You see, in this game of there can be only one, it's a zero-gravity dance as you balance your forces. Extremely simple to start off, the wonderful thing about this one is just how balanced it feels as you tiptoe the line between attack and defense to come out alive. A strategic look at the starry skies, check this one out at the address below.
Très cool, Solar Max, très cool. Mesmerizing real-time strategy, all yours with just your web browser. Now, if any of those free-to-play games caught your eye, head online to where you can get all the links to the stuff that we feature, as well as access to our archives. And of course, if you want to chat with any of us here at the Game Team, you can always get in touch with us at the same addresses. Except you, Pervin Mervin. I don't like you. Anyway, up next, when it comes to heroes, yep, everyone gets all excited. But what about the bad guys, huh? Just like a spoonful of creamer, it's no bloody good on its own. Even the toughest hero needs an equally awesome nemesis to make all that getting out of bed worthwhile. And so, in this week's Inside Look, we take a peek into the studios of Insomniac Games to find out the art to how monsters are made.
I think with every good Chimeran enemy, the first thing we kind of think about is what is the player experience that we want when they're encountering these enemies?
We definitely wanted it to be more about player choice and for it to feel like the enemy AI was reacting to what the player was doing. And to do that, we wrote something called Job Board, basically a tool that designers can use to control how many enemies can be doing what jobs in combat so that they can still have that kind of scripted, good-feeling cinematic battles. And using the job board, they can do things like assign a certain number of defenders, or a certain number of flanking enemies, or a certain number of just straight-out aggressive guys who are going to run after the player and attack. If things felt more random and you just had guys everywhere acting stupid, you can get into situations where you have big difficulty spikes or the difficulty just completely drops out. It can definitely make the player feel like they're fighting a more intelligent foe.
The Brawler, it was We wanted to bring back kind of the intensity of the Titans from earlier Resistance, but have them much more agile, have them be able to come down on you really fast.
Almost indestructible. He has weak points which, unless the player shoots those, he isn't going to do any damage to him. He is a melee character who runs around destroying whatever's in his path, including you.
Okay, how do we make that fun? How do you fight that? We don't want it to make it a bullet sponge either. We don't want the player to just kind of sit there and pelt, back up, pelt.
Animation-wise, we wanted to feel like he was moving more like a gorilla, like a silverback gorilla. We didn't want him to feel like just a dude in a suit.
The thing kind of develops on its own in rough form as we're developing the art style, kind of how you make him a Chimeran-looking creature goes part and parcel with how do you make him feel good and fun in a situation.
Yes, I know they're different games, but it'll be interesting to see how this one stacks up against Gears of War 3 when it's released. Almost simultaneous twin alien invasions? Ay, how will we survive? Well, I'm sure we will. With that, time once again to leave you to your scheduled 2-minute radiated dose of commerce. But stay with us, because coming up next, it's a retro treat as we hearken the glory days of the painted pixel. And it's all in the cards for the latest online gathering. Babe, it's gonna be magic. Hey there, welcome back to the show. Castle One Princess Kelly here, your host to the exciting world of video games. Got some free time and really want to sink your teeth into something? Well, lucky you. Time now to get a little sampling of some of the more outstanding titles on the shelves right now. It's our look at what's hot this week. This is The Wrap.
I like big butts and I can't deny. We begin our look at the movers on the video game charts with everyone's favorite robots in disguise. Set to coincide with the release of Michael Bay's third $1 million monstrosity, Transformers: Dark of the Moon, the video game works as a backstory to the events of the film. But don't let that put you off, because unlike the overly long sensory assault that is the movie, this one comes to us from the same studios which brought us last year's amazing War for Cybertron, a title many fans consider the best Transformers game available. Featuring an all-new stealth mode allowing partial transformation for advanced vehicle maneuvers like strafing, Dark of the Moon looks to add a much-needed layer of depth to the gameplay. With a core multiplayer component which works great with a few compadres, get your fill of Transformers Dark of the Moon is available now on all major consoles. Next up, we take to the skies to check out a surprising little online offering which combines our love for retro shooters with a healthy serving of imagination in Jamestown. A top-down shoot-'em-up, just like the kind we used to get back in the mid-90s. This one takes place where else but on Mars, in an alternate history which sees the British colonizing the Little Red Planet. Silly story, but what do you expect from a game which holds so true to the Japanese masterpieces which this title gets its inspiration from? Featuring 4 players on screen at once, each with their own unique attacks, use your lightning reflexes to weave and bob through a bullet hell of projectiles, all with your name on them. Now sadly, if you're itching to take a friend with you on the journey, do note that Jamestown only features local co-op, so no online multiplayer at all. But if you've got a couple of mates willing to cram at a keyboard, Jamestown is available now exclusively for the PC.
My name is Gideon. And I'm about to die.
And finally, in our weekly look at what's out there, one for all the tabletop fans as we turn our attention to the latest online offering in a series which needs no introduction.
Less charitable voices say I was the sole cause of its demise.
Based on the fantasy card trading game Magic the Gathering, Duels of the Planeswalkers 2012 looks to expand upon last year's release, promising a more robust campaign for all involved. Now, if you're a little unsure about what's going on, don't worry, because the game features a pretty comprehensive tutorial mode for newbies to get up to speed.
I was humbled by their power and tempered by their convictions.
With more options for customizing your deck, improvements to the AI, as well as an all-new co-op mode where you and your friend can take it to a boss
and fight the very kind of tyrant I had become.
Experience the magic of this tabletop classic. Duels of the Planeswalkers is out now.
I've never really been a fan of Magic the Gathering, but maybe it was all that sitting around cross-legged on the floor that I didn't like. Well, whatever it may be, if you're like me and have trouble rounding up 3 other captive nerds for a nice game of MTG, Duels of the Planeswalkers looks to be a pretty decent bet. Moving on though, time to consult our Magic 8-Ball as we take a look into the not-so-distant future. It's our very own Beyond 2000 segment. For those with extremely short attention spans, this is the preview.
Have you ever had a dream where you died?
We begin this Japanese-infused edition of the preview with a serving of the top titles coming soon from the land of the rising sun. Starting off with a story all about meeting the wrong woman. Now in this action-adventure, you play Vincent, a man who begins having these weird dreams after meeting a strange girl called Catherine. Falling each night into a nightmarish dream world populated by men who look like sheep, this one looks to take puzzle platforming and strangeness to a whole new level.
No, this is just a nightmare.
An adult-oriented title where your decisions affect the outcome. Experience what it's like when dreams and reality come together when this one hits the shelves later this month.
They say all the men who died were cheaters.
If the least do is
Next up, we gaze lovingly at the remake of hands down one of the best action-adventure video games ever made. Possibly the most awe-inspiring piece of software to come out for the old PlayStation 2, Shadow of the Colossus will soon be coming to us in full HD. A story about a young wanderer who must travel the lands defeating giant colossi to save the life of his friend. This, my friends, is adventure gaming at its best. Now, if you haven't played it yet, the premise might sound a little strange, because with no dungeons to explore, no basic enemies to kill, and no other characters to interact with, the main focus of this one is just defeating each of the game's 16 bosses. But far from being just a boring exercise of head bashing, Shadow of the Colossus delivers a roller coaster ride brimming with depth and emotion. Plus, thanks to all that HD magic, it's even more definition-near and comes with a stereoscopic 3D mode. Fancy. So if you haven't experienced this classic before, mark your calendars for when this one hits the shelves on September 25th.
アメリカ生まれのもう一つの EDF 緊急出動
And to wrap up our Akihabara edition of the preview, we shed some light on a budget-priced release with a big focus on blowing up bugs in Earth Defense Force Insect Armageddon. Looking to bring back the fun of just causing chaos, take the fight to your would-be leaders by force, even if it means leveling your entire city block. Featuring a collection of pretty awe-inspiring insect invaders, this one is a great title to look into if you're a little sick of your standard military shooters. Plus, if you're sick of going it alone, the game also features a campaign mode which can be played online with up to 3 friends. So if you're up for the relaxing warmth of bug splatter on your face, the Earth Defense Force begins enlistment in July.
Earth Defense Force Insect Armageddon.
Bug-eyed blasting galore. Just love it when they say Insecto Armageddon. Can you say destruction? Thank you, please. And with that bit of Ultraman scale devastation, sadly that's all the time we have for this episode of Game. But remember, you can always check in at our website at espnstar.com/game for snippets of the show. Or join our growing community of like-minded gamers on Facebook. That's facebook.com/ESSgame. Or follow our tweets at twitter.com/ESSgame. Till we meet again, my friends, online or otherwise. Thanks for watching. It's Kelly signing off. Hi.